Before we get started, I wanted to clear something up. This is not a class about getting rid of these emotions. So, like, if you've ever been told, stop being dramatic, that's like the one I hate the most, right? Calm down. You're overreacting. Then you already know that emotions can be frustrating because it's like, this is how I feel. How are you telling me that the way I feel is a problem? And I'm here to tell you emotions aren't the problem. The problem is when those emotions start running our lives and they start making decisions for us. Every single person has emotions, and sometimes those emotions can overflood and overflow, even in me. But the strong people, right? The quote unquote strong people, we hear that all the time. Like, oh, I'm not as strong as her. I'm not as strong as him. Those people aren't the people who never get upset. They're not the people who never feel anything. They're just the people who understand that what they're feeling does not dictate how they have to act. So, I want to be very clear that today is not about becoming emotionless or telling our emotions to go away. It's about feeling them, but being smart about how we feel them or about how those emotions come across. Now that we got that out the way, let's just do a quick check in. If your mood today was the weather, what would it be? Would it be sunny, cloudy, thunderstorm? Side note, as I'm doing this, it's actually raining right now. So there's that. Um, is it a hurricane? And before, like, my teenagers say, you know what, I'm fine. Like, be honest. Fine is usually a code for, listen, I don't know how I'm feeling, but I don't really want to talk about it. How do I know that? Because I say the same thing sometimes. Oh, I'm fine. You're not fine. Or maybe you are. There's no pressure. But asking ourselves how we actually feel, it helps us to realize something important. And that's that everyone is carrying something. And you never really know what's happening to someone in their life. Right now, you can probably think I'm fine, but I actually don't feel that great. But this isn't about me. This is about you, right? I'm just saying that so you know we're all human and we all have these human emotions. And you're not the only one. If you're having a cloudy day, if you're having a hurricane of a day, you're not the only one that feels those emotions. Those emotions are normal. So, what's your weather forecast? If you have my number, text me and be like, hey, just got to this slide. Girl, my weather forecast is blah, blah, blah. Let me know. I'm interested. Why emotions matter. So sometimes people act like our emotions are annoying, right? And sometimes they can be. But imagine if we didn't have any, right? Imagine if we had absolutely no emotion. That means no excitement. That means no happiness. That means no love, no motivation, no connection. Like, and when you think about it like that, you're reminded that emotions exist for a reason. For example, feeling fear, that's what keeps us safe. Feeling anger, that's what tells us something isn't fair, something isn't right here. I was mistreated. Feeling sadness, that means that we lost something important to us. Anxiety, something that we all feel a lot in this day and age, that means that, hey, um, danger is ahead, even if sometimes there's not, right? But that's a story for another day. And basically, what I'm trying to say is emotions, it's just information. It's like little notifications on your phone. And the problem isn't getting those notifications. The problem is when we don't understand what the notification is trying to tell us. Like, have you guys ever had like those Timu notifications, right? You have the notifications popped up on Timu, and then the Timu notification pops up and it's like boop boop, and it says something crazy like I got a notification once that said it said something like, oh, like my return turned into a credit. And I was like, ooh, I got money. Wait, hold on. Did I do a return? Right. But no, they just want you to go to the app and like sell you more stuff. Right. So sometimes when notifications pop up on our phone, it can be super confusing if we don't understand what that notification is about or what they're trying to tell us. So that's why it's important to know, you know what, when I get this notification, when I feel this emotion, this is what's going on. And sometimes we just have to delete that app altogether. Like I had to delete my Timu app altogether. If you know, you know. What is an emotion? So when most people hear the word emotion, they automatically assume, oh yeah, emotion is how we're feeling. But emotions are so much bigger than a feeling. Emotions have usually have four parts, and I'm going to keep it really simple. There is definitely a lot more depth to this, but we're just going to keep it simple. So an emotion usually has four parts. We have the thought, the body sensation, the behavior, and then the actual feeling, right? So here's an example. You text your friend doesn't answer. You thought, they're ignoring me. Your body feels tight or your heart is racing. You feel hurt. Then maybe you stop texting them, even if they respond to you. You notice how the thought kind of turned into a whole experience. That is the emotion. So, understanding our emotion means learning to slow down and see all of the pieces. Taking a step back and saying, okay, hold on. This is what I'm doing because this is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. I know that because my chest is tight. Why am I feeling this way? Because I'm thinking this. And that sounds like a lot. And it is a lot. It takes a lot of practice to actually get to change our behaviors, to understand our emotions. So this is just the beginning of it. The first one that we're going to talk about is one that a lot of us feel a lot of the time. Okay. We're going to talk about anger because a lot of us struggle with anger. Usually, this is where I'm like, oh, raise your hand if you've ever been angry. All of us have been angry, right? But have you ever realized later on after you're angry that you weren't really angry? Like maybe you were actually embarrassed. Maybe you really felt rejected. Maybe you more so felt ignored. Maybe you felt disappointed. Maybe you felt lonely. Sometimes anger is the emotion we show because it feels safer. It's easier to yell at somebody. It's easier to throw things. It's easier to ignore people, to kick people to the curb than to say, I'm hurt. It's easier to push people away to say, than to say, like, you made me feel left out. You hurt me. Because in our society, that can be a sign of weakness sometimes, right? So it's easier to show that anger. So when we look at this emotional iceberg, it reminds us that what we see is not the whole story. What you see on top, that iceberg that you actually see, that's the anger piece. But what we're going to focus on this month and in our therapy sessions is what's underneath that, the feelings that hide a little deeper. Now, most emotions can be traced back to a few core emotions. And I put anger up here because I don't want to go through all of the details of this, but some people say that anger is not a core emotion. We can talk about that another day. But I added it on here and I added it really small because It's something that we still feel very often, right? But all of our other ones, they're going to be right up here. So think of like your core emotions as primary colors that we learn in elementary school, right? Red, yellow, blue. I had to think about the rainbow for a second. And then everything else is a variation. So red and yellow make orange. Blue and yellow make green. So our other feelings are variations of those primary colors or those primary feelings. So you might say you're angry, but are you frustrated? Are you annoyed? Do you feel betrayed? Do you feel shame? Do you feel resentful? So the more specific you can become, the easier it is to understand yourself. So saying something like, I feel bad, that's like telling your doctor, something hurts. Okay, like what part of your body? Your arm? Something above my waist. Okay, there's a lot of body parts above your waist, right? So you need a little more information. And in order to get that information, you need to unfortunately sit with your emotions. And again, that's what we're going to do this month in our therapy sessions. So this is an emotion wheel. It's going to be something that we bring up a lot, especially if you or if we find out that you know what you're really struggling with identifying an emotion. We can start very basic and we can say, hey, let's look at our emotion wheel and we can focus on identifying how you feel when you feel something, like in your body. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking, oh, emotions are simple, because they're not. They're definitely not simple. And research shows that the more that someone can accurately name their emotion, the easier it is to regulate them. So, one thing that I always thought was super weird when I was younger is personally, I cry when I'm angry. A lot of people don't understand that, or they see that I am crying and assume that I'm sad. No, no, no. For me, if I'm so angry, I start to cry. But I didn't know that, or I would not have known that unless I actually sat with my feelings. Um, and a lot of the time, I might feel rejected, and that's why I'm angry. Or I might feel ignored, or like I don't matter. All of those kind of made me feel angry, and now I'm crying, but I'm not necessarily sad. So, this emotion wheel, it helps us understand the range of emotion and what that means for us. So, we're going to become little emotion detectives for the next month, and we're going to look at our facial expressions and our body language. But here's the catch: you can't always tell what someone is feeling by looking at them, right? And I already gave you a good example of that. Like, have you ever smiled when you were upset? Or have you ever laughed when you were nervous? A lot of people laugh when they're nervous. Um, but that's exactly kind of what this activity is going to help you recognize. Our body gives us clues, but it kind of doesn't always tell us the whole story. So, for today, either now, you can press pause, or later, get a mirror and practice recognizing those emotions. Or maybe get your parent, or maybe get a sibling, and just practice like, hey, I'm going to do this phase. Guess how I feel. And one, that'll tell you whether or not that person can read you well. And two, it can also help you know how you look to others when you feel a certain way, right? So just grab somebody, grab a mirror, and just practice. It's going to feel so silly, but it's going to help you begin to know how to identify your emotions, how you feel, and what you might look like when you're actually feeling something. So, just a little activity for you to do in your spare time. Um, and then just so you know, I did create like a little game on Canva. So you're also going to get a website link that to that game, and it's just like a little emotional regulation game. I hope you find it fun, and if you do, please drop me a text and say, hey, that game was actually pretty fun, I want more of those, or yeah, don't do that again, that was straight buns. Hopefully I used that right. I just learned that word buns, so let me know if I used it right. All right, and then we're going to focus on that emotional vocabulary, right? And let's be honest, whenever we talk about emotions, usually we focus on three things, right? I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm fine. And that's it. But imagine if I asked you to paint a picture of the beach, or if I asked you to paint a picture of a forest or whatever, and you only use three colors, it would look not that great, right? It just wouldn't work. So the more emotional words that we know, sometimes we just don't know the words to put to our feelings. The more words you know, the better you can explain what's happening inside. So that is also something we're going to focus on, that emotional vocabulary. And that brings us to the super fun game that I was telling you that I made you. So we're just going to check for understanding. And the game is called Don't Be Buns, Be Chill. So you should be able to just click on this. And like I said, it's just an emotional regulation game, just something to play in your spare time. And I hope that this presentation, I hope you found it not too boring, but also informative on what we're going to be working on and what we're going to be focusing on for the month of June. And then next week, we're going to pick up with our actual brains. So we're going to focus on what parts of our brain actually make the emotions and how we can change our thought patterns. So that is the plan for this month, focusing on those emotional regulations, identifying it, changing our behaviors, focusing on all of the parts that go along with the emotions. And again, remember, you can text me, you can call me. I am here for you. If you do not have my personal number, you can text the work phone, and I will text you on my I'll text you back on my personal number. For those of you that don't have the work phone number, it is 407-504-0321. I don't want to put my personal number out because I am putting this on YouTube. And I don't want strange people to have my number. So, again, if you need me, call me, text me. If you have questions about this, let me know. And remember, this is a supplement to your actual therapy sessions. So, we're still going to meet once a week, we're still going to do our check ins, but you are also going to have these little tidbit presentations giving you more information than we actually have time to go through during therapy. And your parents also have the opportunity to watch this and hopefully support you on your journey as you're learning how to regulate your emotions and learn more about them. I look forward to hearing how you're feeling. Don't forget, I want to hear all the funny weather things. And I look forward to hearing about what you thought about the game and if you would like more of these things. All right. So remember, you got this. You're good. I'm good. We're all good. And I can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Have a great week.